Hey everyone, earlier this week, OpenAI announced a bunch of updates during Dev Day, and one we want to talk about is their agent builder. Specifically, we want to talk about where we think it'll shine, where we think it's not the best fit, and how it's going to evolve. It really is designed to create a chat experience. The input is chat, and they announced the widget builder, which allows you to take a lot of the information and represent it in the way you want, which personally I think was a long time coming. Is how do you create bespoke UX, maybe not on the fly, but structure in a way that you want users to give you input and represent information. This is very much chat focused, which also highlights one of the immediate limitations, which is we're not seeing any sort of webhooks automatically created, no way to send HTTP requests to this and invoke some action. So you can't really invoke it via GitHub or some other system where you can send events and then invoke the agent.
It's really clear kind of what use cases they're targeting first, what's their first wedge in, and what kind of customers. We can see they're really not aiming yet for the long-running enterprise agent space. The things that Harrison Chase and others talk about when they discuss ambient agents or proactive agents, or even the things that Zapier and N8N actually do pretty well, which is take a trigger, something that can allow a workflow or an agent. We should discuss that too. What's an agent versus what's a workflow? But allow a workflow to run in the background and go get a bunch of stuff done for you, maybe long-running agents before you're even around. This is not that yet, but knowing OpenAI, maybe in another month, it will be.
They do have a lot of out-of-the-box just pieces that you already see in the agent SDK that makes it real easy. One is guardrails. Like, guardrails are really nice. You can do PII guardrails, jailbreak, hallucination. You can create your own hallucination sort of vector store to see what is your ground truth. One thing that I do feel is missing is a generic guardrail. When you use the SDK itself, you can create a generic guardrail to say, hey, is this talking about math homework? Or if this is a tutor, is this getting off the rails here? I can't see a way to actually do that directly.
Yeah, custom guardrail.
Custom guardrails, yes. So you can't tripwire, send an error the way you want it to.
Yeah, there's a variety of things there that I would love to be able to do that you can do through the API that is a little bit limited in the UI here. But I do think the guardrails are an interesting addition and kind of really showing high quality classification of problems you can run into.
Yeah.
On the flip side, though, maybe we're biased on the observability side of things. I would love to be able to make it a little easier to debug whenever the guardrail trips on something.
Exactly.
And be able to look through a bunch of data and say, hey, here are the times when it's taking off, when it's shutting down 20% of the cases. Here are the times where it's letting them through, and maybe even be able to give feedback, because that's really where things like this will shine over time, is a learning process, not just a set workflow.
Just two notes on that. One is you can decide exactly what you want to happen on the fail. So maybe you could, through the MCP, store it somewhere, log it. The other thing to note is, initially I thought this was purely Canvas no-code solution, but you always have the option to push this via the agent's SDK. And I almost can see this as a way to start designing. But the moment you need to invoke HTTP requests or do something with a Python library, you just export this as via the agent's SDK in TypeScript and Python, and then you have full control.
That's reasonable, and I do think that's hopefully where they're going, because really if we look at the code versus workflows versus UI kind of process, I expect more of this to go towards code. Like, people like OpenAI are making it better and easier to write code every day. So it's not exactly hard anymore to go and write 50 lines of Python code.
Right, and it almost makes me think, what is the value of this no-code experience? Is it really this intermediate step of, okay, let me roughly design it, or even explain what the agent does, and then push this code version, export it, and then actually do some fine-tuning? I already use Claude Code. I may be using Codex. I may be using even Cursor. I have a lot more control if I just use that experience directly on top of what is exported here, as opposed to trying to figure out how to use it via this Canvas editor. So,
yeah, exactly. Like, as much as I, in the past, before these systems existed, might have used Zapier or some of the newer stuff like N8N or Dust, I do think just being able to jump straight into even a chat experience and just say, here are the 5 things I want. I want to create an email assistant that takes email, has a guardrail, and responds every single time there's a task for me to do. That kind of stuff should be something I can describe, and I don't have to go and click around. And I tried to do that earlier, and clicking around I couldn't quite get it, because it is not that easy to understand right off the bat.
So taking this one step further of how I think teams and companies will use it, One is, okay, a person who is maybe an ops person can design this and run it completely, but the moment there's a handoff to someone who's going to export this as Python or TypeScript, edit it, now that person's now out of the loop. They won't be able to come in and edit this. So the question is, okay, will this person now need an intermediate representation where you create the nodes, generate them to give feedback, or are they using Claude Codex themselves? So I think that's something we're going to have to tackle with as people use this more.
It's an early product. I expect, just like they said, they worked in it for like 6 weeks or so. I do expect next versions to have more collaboration, and collaboration will likely cover not just human to human, like you're describing there, but between human and AI assistant, right? Yeah. I expect that I should be able to give some feedback either to the widget, which we should look at next, or to the actual workflow builder, where I should be able to kind of iterate side by side with ChatGPT, which I like being able to do, and I think that's missing a little bit right now.
When you are using the widget builder, an agent can respond with the output format of a widget. You do have to jump to the widget builder, actually export that, download it, and then re-upload it to the agent builder. That feels a little disjoint to me. Maybe that'll change over time, but that's something to note. The other piece is the widget builder itself. I do like the gallery and the experience of actually building it. You can just directly, almost like V0, you can describe the widget to give you a good place to start. In this case, like I'm creating a few widgets around stocks, and it's pretty simple. One thing to note is I do like this preview experience. You can add preview data just to see how the widget will be represented. It reminds me a lot about like Xcode and creating previews. One thing to note is it's a little finicky. I would say like this highlight, but the moment you sort of play with it a little bit, you can break it pretty easily. So there I just removed the chunk of JSON, but now there's no way to get back to it. So there's some rough edges here, and then this sort of validation here seems to fail occasionally, and you can't, the unfortunate part is you're not actually allowed to download when there are any errors, so it will regularly just show you errors that are actually not errors. That's a little frustrating.
There's also this like iterative aspect that I was missing, is I want to be able to not just go and edit directly, but I should just be able to follow up and ask another question.
Yeah,
and it's the cursor experience, right? I love being able to write some code, ask for more, right click on a line of code and be like, hey, can you change this to this other thing? Maybe that'll just come over time into Codex. Maybe there'll be something else that they plug in here.
One thing I tried to do that didn't work that well is clearly this is using a lot of TypeScript, 2 is Tailwind, so it's using a lot of these classes, and if you try to use it in Codex, Cursor, it thinks it's just a typical JavaScript environment, tries to do many things, and if you try to bring that back to widget builder, it'll just break because there are certain conditionals, certain things that just don't work in this environment.
Yep.
So I think I haven't fully tried this, but you can take the entirety of the component library, the examples, and maybe put it in a Cursor MD or in a system prompt. I think that would help, but I haven't gone through that process quite yet. Cool. So just to talk about evals for a moment. So they do have evals out of the box, which I think is really cool.
That's nice.
It's very much, a lot of this is from the Agents SDK and their Agents experience. If you've previously been using the Agents SDK, you could see all the traces that they actually have, and you could also already run quick evals. So this puts it all in one place. One thing that is different here is looking through these traces, it is an LLM as judge grader. This seems to be the quick evals version. So you can do things like asking about those conversations. Is the agent staying on track? Is the agent being polite? Does it have sort of qualitative understanding or a qualitative eval? So this is for sure LLM as a judge. I'm not quite seeing any custom evals or custom functions, but it is nice that it's out of the box.
And again, kind of coming back to what I hope is next, it's nice that we have some simple traces already there. It's nice that we have kind of basic steps towards this out-of-the-box evals. But I also would like to see automatic debuggability.
Okay.
Because we have a lot of information that's sitting right here. It's not just about offline eval. It's also when I'm developing this agent or workflow, when things go wrong, tell me why they're going wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Like, OpenAI has all this data now. and have models that we use all the time to debug issues even within our systems, it would be very easy to plug these two things in together and have an automatic debugger, or have something that's sitting there saying, hey, this workflow is not quite working and I can see why it's failing at this spot. Maybe you should go and make this fix. And maybe write some code for me to fix it.
Just to kind of recap, it definitely seems designed for chat experiences. We do want to see more on the, what Harrison Chase would call the ambient or the event-driven async version of agents. And we'll see. We'll see if OpenAI evolves in that world.
Hopefully some more code-first options too.
Yeah.
We're all becoming devs, better and better devs, thanks to OpenAI, Anthropic, and others. So let's make sure we can do that without having to just drag and drop a bunch of WYSIWYG stuff.
It does seem like more people can just use tools like Claude Code, Codex, Cursor to design their own agents, and we're seeing more agent builders using that experience. So we'll see how these two models play together.
Yep. Want this thing?
Oh, that's pretty cool. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks,
See ya.
everyone. Talk to you soon.